Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Woman Fully Alive. I'm your host, Madeline Eames, and I really hope that you've been enjoying the podcast so far. You can see I'm coming to you from my cabin at on the lake. This is my office at the cabin. And why am I coming from here? Because this is where I get lit up. In this small place is where I find my inspiration, and this is when the words bubble up out of me, and it feels like you're divinely guided. So this is what I'm diving into today. What does it mean to find your fire? What does it mean to feel fully alive? Well, you already know because you've had moments like that. And you might think back to when you were a little girl and you danced like nobody was watching, and you were less self-conscious, less worried in the moment, not aware even of how you were coming across to other people, because you were so alive in all the cells of your body. This is what it means to find your fire. Now, here's what I see. What I see is that so many women that I work with their fire's never gone, but it's definitely suffocating. It's not being given the oxygen to breathe itself into this world. And they lack a passion for life. And so you might be thinking, well, I do because of what's happened to me, or because of what I look like, or because, I broke my leg, or I don't have an education. I'm telling you that all those things are irrelevant when it comes to your fire. And here's the other thing that you might not know, is that when you find your passion, you find the fire inside of you, all those things fade away. And the right things and the right people come forward. Now, this might sound like fantasy talk, Madeline. What do you think? It's like magic? Well, it actually feels like magic. And I'm coming to you from a place at 58 where I'm really starting to realize the magic involved in finding your own fire. So here's the other thing that maybe you know, maybe you don't know, is that your fire burns inside of you. It is your soul that came into this particular body that you're in, this particular house that you're living in while you're on this planet. So it really pays off to take good care of your body. I am not talking about diets. I'm not talking about going vegetarian, although it might be that for you. I'm not vegetarian, but really tuning in to what makes you feel alive, whether it's a piece of chocolate or a kale salad, that's up to you. So you might notice that the people that you gravitate towards, you don't worry so much about what's their education or what they look like. They have an energy about them that tells you that they know who they are. That's the vibration of aliveness. And well, if you're going to a surgeon, I don't care. I want a highly trained surgeon. That's something different. That's what we're talking about, what you're doing in the world. But when you find your fire and you breathe life into it, those things start to actually fade away. So if you can think back to those times, now I know for me, I was a high-spirited little girl. I was chubby, I was chunky, I danced, I wanted it all. I had a voracious appetite. That voracious appetite for life is your fire. Now, I also listened very carefully to the outside world, and I did what the outside world told me to do at a certain point. I got quiet. I sat in my desk. I got straight A's. I was like, oh, okay, taking the cues here. This is what we're supposed to be, a good girl. Now that pays off within the system that we're in. You get into university, you get the validation and the approval that you're looking for, that you're wired to look for. But here's the thing. After a while, that grows old. Not only does it grow old, but it turns into always looking for permission, always looking for approval from the outside world, which you will never get 100%, and avoiding criticism. It turns into anxiety, absolutely depression, because you cannot rely on the outside world for your unique fire. And it turns into chronic pain. Why? Because we quell the emotions that fuel the fire, right? So it might be anger, it might be passion, it might be sensuality, it might be dance or music or even sadness. It's all a part of your aliveness. So you can tell I get fired up about this because, again, it takes a lot of courage. Now, courage comes from the word heart, core. It takes a lot of heart-centered work to start to release the conditioning that prevents us from finding our fire. What will the neighbors think? How will this work out? Will it affect my family? I don't have any money. All of those things. And to really step in to who you truly are. But here's the thing about why I love working with women at midlife, because you realize if you're lucky, you're halfway there. You can see the end of this body on the horizon. And so it becomes like a now or never. And when you find your fire, when you dig deep and you really get into your body beyond the fearful thoughts, your fire far outweighs all of your fears. Because what I tell my women, what I tell my classes is that we're not stupid. There's a reason why we learned not to speak up, not to stick your neck out, not to get too visible, because we see what happens. We see what happens to women who step into the limelight, who step into success. We watch women get taken down, and every part of our body goes, I don't want that, because criticism, judgment, being left out is painful. But the women that persevere, take Taylor Swift as an example, or Lizzo, for her to step out beyond the cultural norms, no matter what you think of these people, is actually magnificent bravery, because you kind of put yourself out there, and you're vulnerable to anybody's idea of who you are. But if you were able to tap in to your true self and stand in your feet, the rest of the noise starts to quieten down and your tribe starts to move forward towards you. Yes, you have to be able to withstand those winds of judgment and criticism. But to be honest, when you really step into it, it just doesn't matter anymore, because your fire becomes bigger than your fear. So when we talk about life force energy and how we direct it outwards or inwards, that can really have a huge impact on our health, on our wealth, and how we feel about ourselves in our life. When it comes to anger, when it comes to that life emotion of what you stand for, if you think about embodying the lioness who protects her pride, she's the hunter. She's a predator. And what happens when we take that life force and we turn it inside, we become prey. We become prey to ourselves and to the outside world, because we are so vulnerable. We're vulnerable to having our feelings hurt. We're vulnerable to people's judgment, to people's criticism, and you're going to get knocked down and eaten alive, basically. But I love the image of the lioness. She walks proudly. She could care less what the other animals are doing, unless it's a hyena coming after her. Then she pays attention. But she'll only pay attention to real threats. The other stuff washes over her back. Why? Because her purpose, her fire, is far bigger than any little, thing that triggers her attention on the Sahara, or she'll be constantly distracted. So let me ask you, what are you distracted by? What little triggers set you off course? And, I want to get us back to a place where the fire burns like a constant fuel inside of you, guiding you forward, like your inner light, your inner guidance that you move forward with, because you were born with this. This is your birthright. And we've been fed a lot of stuff like, oh, if I step out or I take too much, talking about appetites. If I take too much, there won't be enough for other people. Well, I'll tell you, that's simply not true, and it's based in a myth of scarcity. Mother Nature continues to provide. And if you are moving from a heart center place, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. You just know. And it gives from a full cup. The rest, you're so alive in your body that the rest of the world gets your beautiful overflow. So looking back to that free-spirited girl who had a huge appetite for life, where do we start to shut down? Where did you stop breathing fully? Where did you start to make your stomach flat, your belly, your creative juices, your inspiration? Where did your heart start to close down? These are the portals to your own aliveness. And when we start to breathe life back into our body in an intentional way, yes, we move through the layers of programming and we release the layers of programming and we get back to that wild, untamed self. Now, does this mean that we go crazy and we run through the streets naked? No, of course not. Because that wild self is full of instinct and wisdom. And when it comes to, being criticized or shamed, it's a very different energy that we're putting forth, because that stuff just rubs right off you, because they're not your people. The ones that say, oh, look at her, what's she going off her rocker? Well, that's old stuff. That's intergenerational trauma, because yes, women were institutionalized for rage or wildness, or even walking in the woods by themselves. Go figure. But you're not meant to be tamed. You're not meant to be a tiger pacing the perimeter of a cage. You're a lioness on the Sahara. Can you feel that? And my job is to help you to get your roar back. We know that these are the women out there, I'll just put it out there, that are shamed, that are, we even have like caricatures of them called the Karen, the one that complains too much, the Karen, or the tiger mother who's like ferocious about her children. But think about those caricatures. They're totally distractions. And because they're outside, there's a woman out there who has a voracious appetite and a fire and has a tiger, and but they're misplaced. Who should we be really focused on in this world? Should we really be focused on the vulnerable people, or the women that are strong, or what women are doing with their bodies or their wombs, or what gender people are are living out their truth in their body. No, those are distractions. They're all distractions. And from the real issues that are going on in the world. So when your fire, like my fire, is helping women at midlife find their purpose and live on purpose so that we don't miss their gifts before they die. If you have a music inside of you that is ready to be played, maybe you don't even know what it is yet, and that's okay too. I was there for years. In fact, I had many fires. I had many purposes. And at the time, there were the purpose, because purpose changes. We're not one-dimensional. We were brought up in an era, if you're around my age, that told you, you go to school, you go to university, you get a job, maybe you get married, you have kids, and that's so linear. But you are meant to be many things. You are meant to be colorful. You are meant to be sad and angry and happy and joyful and delightful and passionate and all these things, and it really is that appetite or that fire that burns up the karma or anything that gets in the way of you being able to be who you're here to be. There was a time where I developed an app for mindfulness. That was my fire. I was on fire for years on purpose. And then I realized at a certain point that this was a fantastic idea because I'm a creator. That's my strength. But I knew nothing about technology. So I quickly sold that and got out of there because I couldn't take it any further, right? Into the world. And I hope that it did make it into the world. But this is the thing. It's not the outcome. Van Gogh, Georgia O'Keeffe, they weren't thinking about what will people think of this painting. What does it look like? Where's the approval? How many likes do I have on Facebook? No, they were in the process of flow, and it produced masterpiece. So if you are hearing this in your heart, in your belly, and you're hearing the call of the wild, you're hearing the call of yourself beyond the prison walls of our own cages. Well, cages that were created throughout centuries, but you have a key in your pocket. And if you are feeling this fire, this fuel, and you're ready to breathe some life into it, I invite you to join me. I have my course, Find Your Fire, Reclaim Your True Self, is coming out. It's starting on April 17th, and it's a 6-week journey into your own self, into your body, that releases you from the programming and allows you to stoke that fire inside of you. Yes, you do have to take risks. Yes, you do have to step out of your comfort zone. But something tells me that your comfort zone is starting to get a little bit tight, and it's springtime and you're ready to blossom and bloom. I also have a sacred rage journey, breathwork journey coming up that, if I could do one thing in terms of a process, it would be that. Because I see women move the dial in these breathwork journeys all the time. They're powerful, they're potent, and they allow you to access this life force energy of aliveness and of protection of yourself for what you stand for and what you're here to bring into the world. One last thing. When I read about what happens to women, I'll just throw this in here, in war-torn areas, or what happens to lions or animals being captured and either becoming extinct or put into cages. It's that same energy. That's what fuels my fire. And when I breathe life into that, it's like, here's the fire, and then these little fears about what people will think, they become puny. They become non-existent because there's a bigger purpose. And that's what I want for you. So hopefully you find the links below. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed this talk, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, reach out to me. I'm here to help you fuel your fire. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.